Call the meeting to order and we'll rise for the pledge quick. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming out on this wonderful August evening. We'll start with our first presentation and capital project update. Turner and CS Arch.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sure.
Oh, gee, there's pizza sauce in this.
Did I get a little on that? When I kicked it all out?
Par for the course, Bob, par for the course.
Thank you. So we can start.
Thank
You didn't take one for yourself.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. Just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the preliminary work we've been going through, trying to gear up for a potential future capital project and a vote here coming in December. Quickly, we can just go over the smaller piece. This is just a rough outline of the dates and timelines that we have to meet in order to be ready for a vote or a potential vote in December of this year. So you see that some of the first items, as far as the initial resolution of seeker that really gets us started, would have to be in prior to the end of September. If you look on this, we have a date at a board meeting, and I'm not sure if there is a board meeting on the 6th. This is just preliminary. If we do continue down this path, we'll verify these dates with the actual board dates when your calendar comes out, if it's not out already. And then again, continuing down the sheet, you can see the vote right now, again, tentatively the beginning of December. But again, that will change as we get more into the weeds of this and solidify some dates as far as board meetings. But you can see it starting in the next month or two to have to start the process here if we do want to go after that December timeframe for a vote. If you want to turn to the larger sheet, we can start to run through some of the items we've been reviewing for scope for this next capital project. A lot of these items came from the priorities of the last project at priority 3. Some items that from the last project that couldn't be done, like roofs that weren't out of warranty yet, that you'll see come in here. And then a full review with the facilities team on what areas needed to be addressed and what areas needed to be hit in the upcoming projects.
The majority of the project and the scope that's being presented is infrastructure work. It's cleaning up things that are recently going to be out of warranty, and then their carryovers, as Bob said, from prior projects.
Yep, so if we just run through the high school, and stop me anytime if there's any questions on these items as we run through them. But starting at the high school, just some condensate neutralizers for boilers, not a big one, but one that needs to be done. And you'll see that ties into some of the other boiler work below. IT closets, so really updating some of the existing infrastructure. You'll see this across all the schools, just putting dedicated split systems in all the IT closets to keep them cool. We are getting more and more items in there, so they are starting to heat up pretty well, so we want to make sure we can address that. We placed some isolation valves in the boiler rooms. Just, again, this will tie into some of the boiler work you see below, and we'll see this across the schools. But ran into some issues where some of the valves in the main boiler rooms haven't been exercised in a long time since they've been installed in the early 2000s, 2006, 2007. So when we run into issues and the facilities team tries to address them, it's hard to even isolate things to replace pumps or boilers or to really maintain the system. So that's a key piece there. Another big piece you'll see across is kitchen equipment replacements. As we dip down this list, you'll see that the high school is the main priority here to address. We are carrying dollars in each of the schools for some of the kitchen equipment, but talking to the food service director here that the high school was in the most need. Again, this is very preliminary here, so there are buckets of money and all these, and it can be moved around as we move forward through this process. But a good chunk of money there to replace some outdated kitchen equipment and some serving line items. And again, boiler replacement, so we'll see this across the board, but boiler replacements, these boilers, for the majority of the district outside of this building that we're in today, were installed in 2006, 2007, so you can see when we get into this project would be 2007, 2008, the boilers would be 20 plus years old, and again, starting to become at the end of their useful life, so we want to start to get ahead of those, so they aren't past their useful life before they're replaced. Replacement of cores for interior doors, so in the last project, we replaced all the exterior cores, so every building has new exterior cores, and Chad and the facilities team have a direct list of who has an exterior key now, where before it was kind of random, we didn't know who had keys and where they were, but right now, every exterior door is on a new key, and Chad has a dedicated list of who has those keys in hand. We're trying to take that next step and do that on the interior of the buildings and get a little more sophisticated with how those rooms are separated, classrooms versus offices. So this would be a full replacement of all the interior cores in that building. And again, you'll see some of these repeat throughout each of the buildings.
Bob, if I may interrupt for a second, the installation of those cores though would be done by our B&G team, correct?
Yeah, we can do it both ways. In the last, it was last project, your
Brian
team took
did.
care of it. Yeah, we gave Skip all the cores, and sometimes it's a little easier just as far as security is concerned, so it's dedicated just with the district. We'll facilitate it and get everything you need, but sometimes it's nicer to just have you guys do it, so it's clean and easy. We know exactly where the keys and cores are and who's installing them.
Thanks.
The next item there is a new walk-in freezer. So we did some temporary work to get the walk-in freezer at the high school kind of to limp along here for a few years, but it definitely does need to be addressed. The roof was, for lack of a better term, almost collapsing. It had settled, so we did put a new roof on it. We put some gutters on there. We got it to a point where it can last for a couple more years, but definitely needs to be addressed as part of the kitchen upgrades. Another item we added was replacing the unit on the gym to have air conditioning in that space, both for testing, at graduation, anything that space is used for. It is quite a large space that gets used very often, and we want to make sure we can condition it if possible. And you'll notice on the left side of the paper we have some of these priorities, 1, 2s, and 3s, and these can fluctuate, but you'll see that gym air conditioning is priority 3, where maybe if we can squeeze it in, let's do it. If not, there's some other things that might take precedence over that. But again, those can shift. This is just where we see things landing.
The other benefit, if you were to move forward with air conditioning, the gymnasium, it's another large capacity space where students can be moved to meet SED regulations on your hottest days of the school year. So it becomes another space that students could be moved into if their classrooms were too hot for traditional teaching to continue.
The last item at the high school is the roofing replacement. So we did the majority of it in the last project. There are 2 small roof areas that are still the old spray foam that come out of warranty in 2027, and this would be the time to address them in this project.
That would bring the entire high school up to
Yep.
warranty with new roofs. Those are the last 2.
Correct. Any question on the high school? Anything there before I continue? Okay, down into the middle school. So you see the first item there. A lot of the boiler stuff was crossed off of this because it wasn't building wide here. This was updated in 2016, 2017, so we are good here. But again, split systems in all the IT closets just to maintain their cool temperatures in there. Kitchen equipment, a smaller line item here, but again, to upgrade some of the outdated kitchen equipment there. Same thing with the interior cores. Another item that we carried was a concern that was brought up for some bus shelters up at the bus loop, just to kind of break the wind and some of the harsh weather that we get up there where students are waiting for the bus. So some different designs and different ideas of how to do that. But right now, just carrying some dollars to have that. Center area flooring modifications. So this would be the center area where we remove those stairs and put the railings up. Right now, we're looking at just removing the carpet that was placed down and replacing it with terrazzo, so it blends in a little better with the center corridor there. Replacing the faded purplish tile in the center of that area, and just kind of giving it a refresh to take it one step further from what we did by removing those stairs.
Bob, I just wanted to stop you there for a second. We talked about that space quite a bit, and they informed me that we can't do too much in that space because when you start altering anything, they're gonna wanna close that staircase off. So that kind of limits what we do in that space. So I don't know if you wanna elaborate a little bit more on that.
So SED wants that stair that goes to the second floor that is open at this point. There's a fire door at the top. if the district chooses to spend money in there, they're gonna force our hands to enclose it completely. So the entire stair would have to be in an enclosure. We could do that with walls and glass and doors, but it just adds a significant cost that we run into if we start to do too much. So we can do alterations up to a certain level. Once it hits a level 3, they're gonna make us be totally code compliant with it. So it's something that we didn't hit that threshold in the prior project, and we were able to take the risers out and neaten it up some, but as we continue to do work there, we wanna be mindful and do it in small chunks in each capital project as to not to trigger larger code implications in the space.
Cody, as 2 years in that building, have you been concerned at all about safety on that staircase? Have you seen kids being dangerous on it?
No, they use the stairs to go up for lunch. We'll have the entire 8th grade class going up and down. Never a concern of them on the stairs. Our science, they do projects off that. They'll do the egg drop, things like that. So it's more used as educational purposes that rather than ever seeing anybody being harmful on the stairs.
And it would be for fire rating reasons, they would want it enclosed.
So not for safety, kids messing around?
Not for kids messing around, no,
Okay.
it's for fire. And we couldn't do that in a new school that was designed today. Code has changed since the building was originally designed. If we design that building brand new today, it would need to be enclosed, there's no question. So the question is how much they can force a district's hand to bring things up that are currently in compliance. That's the dance we try to play in these projects, to keep the things safe, the students safe, the building occupants safe and healthy, but not to put needless money.
We talked about what the cost of filling in that sunken area, and I think Mike said that he feels like that kind of work would trigger state head's hand. To say, well, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna do this. So that's why we're looking at just changing some colors and moving on. And it is used, right? You guys use that sunken space for various,
The different grade levels will use it for smaller assemblies, like 6th grade will go in there to do their Scholar of the Month awards. Larger scale things, we'll just walk right into the auditorium, but, I know BOCE's classes, they'll use it as a space, almost like it's a PE space for a couple students, or working with PT, scholars that are working with a PT. But honestly, it's more of a small scale, like group space, not a large scale.
okay, I don't want to belabor it anymore, but I want the board to be aware of the conversation we've had around that space. Thank you. Any concerns about that?
Okay, the next item on here is the track resurfacing. So that is just a simple new coating on the track. So that track is going on 7 years old. By the time this is done, it'll be 10, and that's kind of when they recommend that resurfacing. Again, it's just a new top coat on the track. This price does include an upgraded surfacing on that, so it should last 10 to 12 years instead of 7 to 10. But again, just the time as we get in there, by 2027, it will be that 10-year-old mark, so that's the time to try to get ahead of that before we run into any issues. BOCE's room flooring replacement, so we've noticed a lot of areas specifically where there is slab on grade, so like we're above the 6th grades above us, so that's not slab on grade, and some of the other wings where the slab is directly on grade, we've noticed some moisture coming through various spaces, specifically in some of the BOCE's rooms, on the pool side over here, and then in the 7th grade wing. So this number is to remove that, put some moisture mitigation down, and then put new flooring in there to replace the floor. Similarly down here, I don't know if you've noticed, walking through the corridor here, it's the same thing, there's some moisture coming up, and you can see some of these VCT tiles start to pop. We did do some testing in the last project just to get an idea what we're doing, and we do have some high moisture content in the slab here. So again, we remove it, put some moisture mitigation down to keep that moisture down and not pop our tiles. So that's those two. The next one, admin secure vestibule. So we did secure vestibule modifications at every building outside of the entrance down here. So we will reevaluate what the entrance down here looks like and how we make that a little more secure for the people in the admin building. And then roofing replacement. So this is a big one. This roof is out of warranty in 2027. The roof in its entirety is out of warranty. Roof in its entirety is the old spray foam system. We will do the roof and replace it with a TPO, the white membrane that we did all the other buildings in the last project. So the goal after this project would be that every building would be up to date with new TPO membrane roof and away from that spray foam roofing. Any questions at the middle school? Okay. Boulevard, same thing with the boiler condensate, same thing with the IT closets, same thing with isolation, kitchen equipment, boiler replacements, interior cores. The big one here down there is the redesign of the gym entrance atrium and skylight area. So that would be, and Mike can speak a little more to it, what the thoughts are there. Would be eliminating that glass skylight that has become both safety from kids climbing and from causing some ice to form when the snow melts.
It also creates like a greenhouse.
Greenhouse,
Yeah, it's a very, very warm space. We would get rid of the majority of the glass, reuse the existing steel, put in more traditional walls and windows, and a flatter pitched roof, a sloped roof on it. So it would become like any other part of the building. We still want to bring in some natural light, but we want to raise at the entry side and the playground side a little bit of height so students can't mess around and climb up on it. We also want to get rid of the solar gain that you have during the course of the day. It is so hot and humid in that hallway. So we think we can also aid with a lot of energy efficiency in that corridor too by doing that. The goal would be to reuse, it won't be treated as an addition to the building. We're going to reuse the original steel and foundations that are there for the current system and build around them. That should save considerable costs. That's already factored into this number. I guess I'm saying it could be more expensive if we had to treat it as an addition.
Right now, you get ice though up with the sun hitting it and whatever it gets icy as can be, and that's the number one bus drop off and pick up morning and afternoon.
And we started talking about this specific item prior to planning the 2015 project. We did a little bit of work with a new ramp on the backside of the gym at Boulevard, and that project tackled a smaller one. But this is something that the board has talked about back to 2013 or so, that we just haven't made a priority in the past.
Next item is the parent drop-off loop. So this would just be some minor tweaks, mainly striping and curbing, just to add some, just to help out with the parent drop-off on the basketball court side of the building. We would like to utilize the far parking lot back by where Dunkin' Donuts used to be. We did some prep work for that in the last project, and then part of this would be relocating the dumpsters that are all the way back there, bring them a little closer to the building, which would then in turn open up that back parking lot for some of the access staff to park over there, so we can get them out of the parent drop-off zone.
You would add lighting back there, correct?
Correct, yep, so we prepped for that. We have conduit already run back there, we have pole boxes, so we'll be adding some lighting and moving that dumpster pad out of the way and bringing it across closer to the building. The next item was covered glazed block with ceramic tile, so we've done a portion of this in all of the projects. We did a lot in Park Terrace in the last project. In 2015, we did some at Boulevard. This will just be continuing through and covering some of that glazed block to really just brighten up and bring those corridors into the current century. And brick reporting, so just some miscellaneous stuff throughout the building. We did some in the last project, but there really needs to be a full evaluation. If you drive past now, we did some temporary measures just to hold some brick that was looked like it would potentially fall here in the near future with some other freeze thaws. So that is temporarily protected right now, but we need to do a full evaluation of that building and really do some brick repointing and make sure that everything's secure back there. Any questions on Boulevard? All right. Kingsborough, again, these first 6 items here are the same that we discussed at all the other buildings. That's it. And then McNabb, again, same thing that we discussed at all the other buildings. The gym RTUs, McNabb number 008 really was supposed to be in Kingsborough, so that was just a bad labeling on our end, but that would be for the RTUs at Kingsborough. They are, every other rooftop unit at Kingsborough would be replaced with the federal funds that we did in that project. The 2 on the roof at Kingsborough are old, and they were leaking. We've done some temporary work to try to seal them up and protect them so they don't damage the wood floor, but they do need to be replaced.
So that gym RTU should be on Kingsborough?
Yeah, sorry, McNabb 008 and 009 should have been pulled up to Kingsborough. Actually, I apologize, 07 through 09 should have been pulled up to Kingsborough. So 07 is just, and you'll see when we get down to Park, is adding a similar sign that we did at Boulevard, the simple LED display sign that is at the left entrance of Boulevard, to do one of those at Kingsborough as well, and then when we get to Park, you'll see it there. So just hitting the main schools with one of those simple LED display signs. Down into Park Terrace, again, you see the first 6 items are similar to every other project, and again, adding that building entrance sign at the bottom of the roadway. Again, just a simple digital sign similar to Boulevard. The big one here is as we get into some of the site work at Park Terrace. So this one is the Husky Field regrading and leveling. This value here is for natural turf, so that would be all the drainage, grading, sprinkler, and you can see here kind of in the list of everything that would be captured in that, as we assume right now, and that would be about $3 million. If you look at the bottom of the page, we did price up an alternate. If you look under the alternates, PT Alt 01 would be to do the similar work but with turf instead of natural sod.
So wait, green turf is cheaper?
No, that'd be on top of that. So it'd be, yeah, it'd be 3 million plus 1.8.
So Bob, I just wanted, that issue in and of itself, I think is something that we should probably pause and let the board kind of weigh in on, because I've heard numerous thoughts and opinions. I know there's people in B&G who think we're being short-sighted by not turfing it because of the amount of money we save in labor.
The cost, yeah, makes sense.
Most schools have gone to artificial turf, am I right in that? But I know the cost allowances, because it's an elementary school as opposed to high school, it's not there. And I think you've said that Tim's is gonna make this decision for us, because the money, we don't have the money to spend on it. The state does not allow you to spend that kind of money on an elementary facility outside, is that correct?
They don't allow you to do it fully aided on their support and dime. So there would be a much larger local taxpayer impact if you decided to do it. We're trying to stay tax impact neutral.
Right. And that doesn't matter, I'm sorry, Mike, to cut you off, but that doesn't matter, the cost allowance for this particular project. That's just as a rule because of where that facility sits.
That's right.
Right, so that doesn't, it's not like something, I don't want the board to think, hey, we do this work now, we kick the can, next project, the cost allowance will be there. It's never gonna be there, is what you're saying.
It's never gonna be there, and a lot of it is because that primary field is at an elementary school, and so all of the aid is generated by the population for the students at that building. So to justify the cost and to provide the aid on that cost, when it doesn't have the density of population of either your middle school or your high school does, the money will replenish in the piggy bank at the high school and middle school at a much greater rate than any of your individual elementary school sites. That's why it's hard to, it's not a now, or it's hard to think of it happening in a way without a tax impact.
So is it something, I don't know if this is a question for the board to pontificate about what it looks like in 10, 5, 10, 20 years? I guess, here's a question. Is this something this district should consider some point down the road? I'm not saying this meeting, this project, or my tenure, is considered down the road investing in facilities, athletic facilities on this campus because of the ability to aidable, the aid rate. Is that accurate?
100%, yeah, that would be
You would have more money
decision
to
that you-
use if it was either put in the center of the field inside the track at the high school, if we did it here out back.
give a lot more aid at these two
There would
buildings,
be
at this
more funding
campus, than you
available.
will ever have at any of the others.
But at the conception of the prior project, in an earlier project in the early 2000s, the district committed to spending the money on the locker rooms and getting the facilities up and running at Park Terrace, and it seemed too soon for those facilities, because they were still being paid off from a debt standpoint, to step away, and you don't right now have those good team rooms. Well, you do for basketball, you do in high school, actually. You do. You know, it's how those facilities are used at the high school in a way they haven't been. Football's been segregated and down at Park Terrace forever in the lower level. What's the storage impact? Can it work with other sports functions, those team rooms and locker rooms?
So if this district wanted to save for a local share to turf that field, say, you create a reserve, saying 5, 10 years, we're gonna create a reserve, and at some point, this district is gonna wanna turf those fields, but in the meantime, we should get them up to snuff using natural grass.
Yeah, and what we
The
would do.
drain, I'm sorry, Michael, the drainage, if we do the drainage in this project, that will not need to be done over again in a
That's
project.
correct. The drainage, nothing under drain would need to be redone if you went with turf in the future for the work we're doing now. And if you look in the remarks column that Bob and his team put together, they noted everything that's in the base bid, so everything sub-base and down would remain. We would have to go back in. The turf field would require a concrete apron to be able to pin the perimeter of the turf down. That's all trenching work that would have to be done. We would have to add some additional catch basins around the outside of the field to take, the water is taken differently with turf versus natural sod. It's just a different layout, but everything in the main primary field and under drains would remain in place. That's not wasted money if you proceeded with that now.
What are your opinions of the current field at Park Terrace?
The current field, in my opinion, needs to be torn up and replaced and regraded and have drainage isn't a super big problem now, but it can be so much better.
And why is that? When did we last work on that field, do you know?
Not any projects I worked on, Rob might know.
I
We
haven't
did
worked
the
on any.
meters, when was that?
I don't remember.
I think that's when I played. That was late, that was early 20s, wasn't it?
The field has the topsoil is rolling in some areas. I know that it's a constant maintenance issue for the district to maintain. Getting any vehicles on it, you've got soft spots with tires. There are areas that don't grow grass well. Pretty much that entire site is currently sheet draining towards the corner of the site heading down over the hill, down by like where Burger King is. I apologize for not knowing those street names. A traditional football field would be crowned in a very different way. So as part of the project, we would be crowning the field in the center and putting drains around the perimeter the same way we would have it if it was a turf field.
So what would the lifetime expectation be for what you're proposing here?
So I don't know why it wouldn't be 30 plus. I don't know why it wouldn't be 50 plus, to be honest with you. Because with the new design, we put detention structures under the field to hold water. So that now we don't want all the surface water coming off of the fields, working back towards off of your property line down the hill. We'd be storing it and retaining it on site below the field like we did at the middle school and the high school. That is a requirement of DEC. What that does is it allows for a system that's designed to last a lot longer than your current systems.
So beyond mowing and marking the field for play, what other maintenance would we have?
I think Chad does a yearly treatment to the field, which is
Aeration.
fertilizer, aeration.
Overseeding.
Yeah.
Pretty
But
nice.
that's it, that's all we're gonna have to do.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fully sprinkled, so it's all gonna be pretty maintainable for Chad. It's obviously gonna take more effort than a turf field, but it's still, you're gonna be left with a pretty pristine field that you could maintain.
Our turf field here, has anyone evaluated that
As far as,
condition?
I don't
Weren't
need,
we told 10 years when we first got that?
The carpet life itself for the turf is, I believe, a 12-year warranty, so that would need to be replaced every 12 years. Typically, we plan it in a 5-year capital project cycle, so that wouldn't be part of this one, but it would be in the next one. We would have to look at it. I know that the district has a maintenance agreement with the turf field, so there's GMAX testing that's required to be done seasonally before the field is used. That's record document for safety, to be sure that the crumb rubber is spread properly and there's enough of it in right places so that it's safe to play in. That's a sectional requirement. I know that the district does have service agreements in place, and I believe you do all of the maintenance third-party off-site. They aren't district staff maintaining it.
that's correct.
field turf comes.
We do some maintenance, but not when it comes to servicing in front of the goals and whatnot. That's probably the biggest wear and tear, is the goalie diving
Do we
around.
know how old that is?
That was the 2015 project.
That was the
okay.
one, yep, the 2015 project is probably installed in 2017.
2017, yes, fall of 2017 is when that was installed, so it'd be that, 29 timeframe that you do it. They have had no, as far as I'm aware, no issues because we do have that service agreement. Field Turf comes out twice a year, they do everything, so they basically are maintaining that 12-year warranty for you. They come and Mike said, level everything out, they actually suck up all the crumb rubber, run it through the machine, they basically wash it and then put it back down, and they do that 2 times a year to maintain it, so you do get that full 12-year longevity out of it.
The biggest issues I've seen in that field is weeds on the perimeter. That's why we cut back a lot of the trees on the hillside. We push those back about 10, 15 feet. I haven't walked it in a year. I don't know if, but I told Chad that's gotta be addressed because you can't let weeds come into your turf field.
And the other thing, it has been a longer-term maintenance issue, and it really isn't related to the field itself. The wind breakers, the wind barriers that are around the back perimeter to keep, because it is at the top of the hill to keep the wind down, those have broken down over time. I believe those might be left up 12 months a year. And with the trees, I know the trees have been cut back from them so you don't have leaves falling, which lead to rot and kind of break the product down. So that's been really the only thing that I'm aware of that's been.
And we just replaced that in the last project.
Yeah, I
with
was gonna say, I
the-
think he had some limbs that destroyed, that damaged the wind breaks. I think we replaced them.
We replaced all the ball control netting with an upgraded netting, and they also came and did a full-on training with Chad and his group of how to easily take them down and put them back up so they don't leave them out there. And I think they're letting, in that backside especially, leaves collect in them and then deteriorate the netting. So I think Chad's on top, and his team are on top of that to better maintain those so they last longer.
So that there are incredible benefits with going with turf and the playability and how quick in the season you can get on the field and how much more playing season you have to use it. The downside is the district doesn't really do any of the maintenance on it, so now the district has long-term maintenance agreements with vendors that install the field, and there is a cost to that.
And you're replacing it every 12 years.
You're replacing it at least every 12 years, and you get to a point if you don't replace it where it's not safe to play on.
Yeah.
You can't just keep throwing more crumb rubber on it. The fiber and the height of the pile of the fiber also breaks down and deteriorates over time. The system that we specified, I believe in this district we have a pad under it.
Correct.
So everything from the pad down is good for 2 replacement cycles for 24 years. But there is work that could have to be done below the carpet fabric itself, the turf fabric, in a future capital project once you're 25 years plus. So even that, they only warranty for 2 cycles. There's an upcharge when it goes in as part of design. It does help for safety and add additional safety factors that get you 2 carpet replacements for 1 pad.
If we go natural sod in this project, would we lose the season of playability on it, or would we turf it in the spring and be able to play football in the fall?
We were just talking about that before this meeting. There's some different ways we'd lose this. The very least, we'd lose a season of something. There's I don't want to speak for myself. I just threw this on before the meeting, but there's potential we could do it after the last home game of football season. Get out in the fall, get as much work as you can before the snow flies. Unfortunately, lose baseball, and then hope to have it up and running for the fall of the following year.
Gotcha.
It would be one sport or the other. We would talk about doing an earlier phase. So to jump on that, if the project vote is in December, we would want to start right away with that work. We'd honestly probably want to recommend the district do the survey work this fall before the vote, knowing eventually something would be done down there, because we don't want to waste the design time not having a survey be able to be done when there's snow on the ground. So the goal by taking the risk and doing the survey earlier is the design team can start right away. We would want to get it into SED soon. So we would have SED, we would be bid ready or under construction in the fall. So natural turf, we're probably a minimum of 6 weeks once we put sod down on it, that you have to stay off of it. So again, if it was seeded, you're almost a year and a half from seed to get to it to be safe enough for a playing surface. But we would put natural sod down instead of turf to have a less impact. And again, like Bob said, it would either be baseball or football.
So scope, how many months, start to finish? So say if you started right after baseball.
But you would lose football.
Right, but you'd be ready for baseball the following year.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Depending on the fall, right? We have to make sure that side line, needs time to establish. Where if we did it the other way, you would definitely have time to establish. That way, you may lose a little bit of that spring, depending on how that spring and fall shake out.
Sod is also like asphalt, the literal plant shut down. So no one's cutting sod for installation in January. We have to wait for growing season. so that it's good money being installed properly with an opportunity to aerate and the roots to actually break through the sub base. But, you know, we wouldn't want it to all turn brown and die, and that's the thing. We can't even buy it around here. At times that it won't establish.
Well, baseball is a national pastime, right? Ed? We don't-
I never said that.
I'm just saying, we don't wanna lose baseball.
Yeah, I never wanted to. Of course not.
In this conversation, we'd be having whether it was natural turf or sod
Yeah, we'd lose it, yeah.
or artificial. It's the same.
I guess, you know, I just obviously spent a lot of time on this, but I think it's important because it's a big topic, a lot of money. The money is not there without impact on taxpayers. If we wanted, if the board said, we want turf, artificial turf, we would have to raise taxes in this project. Is that a fact?
I wouldn't say it's a fact yet, but it's pretty close. Tim's is still running the numbers, they haven't fully run it. I know they were going back and forth with Kathy today, and she threw some other ideas out there, so I think we need to solidify that with Tim's, but the way it's trending is that it would be a tax impact to do the turf.
You have some,
Well, I was gonna say, we have capital reserve money that we could use, and you have to use that, according to Tim's, prior to any borrowing. And then also, we could appropriate it on fund balance to help offset the cost if we wanted to do that.
well, I think it's important for the board to give us a marching direction on this topic.
We talked about having a discussion with the Tim's group, just to get, like, if both ways, how much it would impact the taxes, and if we use the capital reserve, and if we use unappropriated fund balance, so.
Would that be just the football field or the entire area? Did you guys scope that as in baseball and football, or just football?
Yes, so that would be everything down there right now. So if you look at that $1.8 million alternate, that would be turfing everything.
The baseball field and everything but the baseline's included, or the?
Right now, we could look at that right now, the baselines are included. It would be everything turf.
So that's a big area.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean to press the board on this, but I think it's important, because we're gonna put a lot of time and effort into it. Do you want us to get those two numbers? Or do you have an opinion, like, hey, let's go this direction?
I mean, I'd like to see both numbers, but yes, but equally, I think because of the funding, there should also at some point be a conversation of location. Like, I didn't realize that the elementary schools get far less due to the amount of bodies for funding. So, I mean, if it comes down to a finance thing in the future, that might have to be a conversation.
Would that field in between the track is not large enough for a football field?
So that's another problem.
That's correct, isn't it?
I didn't know that.
In between the track up
Wind
here?
issues up here, and,
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot working against you to try to have a football.
You got a lot of wind there, and you've got a lot of.
Back to my question, of course, I'm having some fun with my friend Adam, who's a football guy. But even if you did put say if you started working in the fall, right after football season, and as long as weather cooperated, you got some work done, when would you put sod down?
As soon as possible. You're going to get it down in the spring,
Like,
late spring.
and how long does it have to be there before football could actually play on it?
6 weeks, I would do a little more than that if we can. But again, having the full irrigation and everything there, it makes it almost easier to get that 6 weeks or closer to that 6 weeks. But 6 weeks is typical with the proper watering and proper temperatures. If I put it down 4 weeks ago right now, it's not going to be set just because we've got that massive heat.
It
But
just seems like there was an issue the last time we sodded that down there,
I thought it was up here that we saw.
where it was used too soon, and
It was up here. It was out back.
that was here.
Yeah, we had to resaw, didn't we, out back?
There were areas that were browned
Remember?
off pretty.
there are areas we had, they actually replaced. They
Yeah,
came
we
back.
had to replace it all,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was, we pinned that more on the contractor.
And that was at their cost.
Yeah.
Homework.
So, both numbers, board what?
I don't think it hurts.
I don't think it
hurts to get both. But that makes sense.
How much time, when do you guys need a definitive answer for our purposes, for the timeline for?
We're trying to set up a meeting with Tim's this week, so hopefully, by the end of this week, we can get some more numbers, if not early next week.
How about for the board definitive, like this is what we're gonna put in front of the taxpayers?
So SECRA, we'd have to start working on the SECRA action out of this meeting. I'll touch base with our consultant on that, and if we can ask Don Council, Kathy, if they're, if we need for bond council purposes, when we write the secret action, whether it matters to the state environment quality review, whether it becomes turf or natural. I don't know that that language matters. So that's something we can clean up, and Kathy, I'll get you an answer on that, if you can get bond council's opinion.
So is it possible, our board meeting is, that's scheduled, board schedules out, the September meeting is the sixth, the eighth. Is there time for this board to hopefully make a decision on the
Yes,
eighth, on
the
what
8th,
direction that works?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll try to get the board the best numbers we can for this proposed project.
Would there be a way to like figure out how much you'd save going from turf to, is like with the maintenance and stuff, you said?
I've had people throw those numbers at me, our own people, but I didn't trust who was throwing them at me.
Right.
So,
I'll take care of that.
Kathy will take care of that.
Okay.
And one other quick question, if not during the turf crop, if we were, would we lose the season for either one with the turf? We'd still lose the season.
You still would.
You had mentioned the field with the drainage kind of going one way, so you're gonna correct that?
Yes.
Okay, so.
No matter what, that's gonna be corrected in the project with regrading.
And structures that are actually catching the water and directing it, and like Mike said, storm retention systems and, yeah, all the above.
So those parking lots, while we're on Park Terrace, there's not this or that, like,
There is, so the next item below.
There's more site work there.
Yeah. So there's, the next item below that is Husky Field replacement, so again, that's replacing all of the perimeter fencing, the gates, everything around Husky Field right now that are damaged, falling apart, not functioning, so that would be to upgrade that all. We're assuming the nice black vinyl that we put across the district in other areas. Lower storefront, that's just the entrance to the locker room area there, that door needs to be replaced, it's old, it doesn't close sometimes, Skip spends a lot of time adjusting that and modifying it, so we would replace that. The next item, the last item here is parking lot resurfacing and parent drop-off. So what's included in this number here is extending the parking lot. We left it stone after the last project down at the lower practice field. It would be basically extending that parking lot to get staff out of the upper parking lot and to use as event parking for events at Husky. Getting the staff out of the upper parking lot would allow us to do some redesign, some simple redesign, striping, curbing, to help with the parent drop-off and the large quantity of parents you get that go behind that school. To keep buses in the front, parents in the back, and try to pull the staff out of there so we have a little more room to adjust how parents queue up in there and drop the kids off. So that is included, that is all of those items are included in that line item, as well as some repaving. So in the previous project, we did the entryway road, and then we did the tennis court area that turned into parking and in front of the building, but the main bus loop area and the roadway that connects those two in front of the building needs to be addressed. Now, we did some minor work on some drainage in the last project, but it really needs to be repaved up there.
If you're having the teachers park down below, I'm assuming you'd be taking out the pavilion?
Yes. Yep.
Would the entrance and exit still be the single back and forth by the school? That road that goes down?
Yes.
So it'd be, okay, all right. 'Cause I know we talked about that large field finding another exit point.
yeah, we talked about, I don't know what it would take to run a road. You see the remnants of an old baseball backdrop
Yep.
closer to the road by where the guy sells hot dogs. Punching a road down the hill to alleviate the traffic coming in and out of that bus loop circle.
Yeah, my only concern is if all the teachers are coming down there with that circle and parents, they're gonna be merging back into that chaos again. So will we be having an additional problem at that time, because you have more traffic coming from below now?
We can certainly look at it and see what it would take to put the road in. There are some grade considerations there, but
I don't know. if
no
that-
grade is gonna be worse than the hill you go up now.
Yeah,
to get
I don't-
out of that
yeah.
area.
It's longer, I mean, obviously it would be dozer work and substrate and all that.
As we talk through these items though, anything we talk to outside of the building, we're in the same boat, so that's taking away any dollars you can spend anywhere else as far as site work. So it's still that limited capacity we have with our MCA, so any site work at Park Terrace, whether it's down at the fields or up top, comes to that same conclusion that we're limited to the amount of money we can spend in scope. So that's my only concern about adding that road. I get 100% what you're saying, we did try to widen that in the last projects, you can get a couple more cars down there, but that would take away from other funds we
Yeah.
consider.
You wouldn't have to worry about staff driving across that road because they get there before
Oh, that's true.
Roads are there.
That's true. That's a good point, Cody.
The other thing we could do with this line item, because it still is a sizable amount of money, we could do this in parts with this project and a potential next project. I would like to see what would happen by adding the additional parking lot on the east side of the building, the side closer to the fields, to see having faculty and staff and a lot of visitors out of the front entry of the parking lot, how that helps with student drop-off and parent drop-off. I think not having all those parked cars up there could help a lot. So maybe we don't redevelop all of the area with a parent drop-off and do something that is as drastic as what was done at Kingsborough on the upper side in this project. Maybe we see what's gonna happen when we take all the faculty and staff out of the parking lot first. That might free up more money to do the road.
That's true.
There is that access road in the back too, I mean, it's obviously in disrepair, but it goes down to that side, Hill Street.
correct.
Goes down to Hill Street, it's old pavement, once upon a time that was paved. I don't know if that could be an option to alleviate the bottleneck that you see out in front of the school. But, just a thought, I don't know if you guys have ever walked that or looked at it.
It's rough,
It's rough.
it's rough, yeah. We could look at it from a different lens if that's something we wanna.
And I really don't even know if the city owns it or the district.
I don't even know where it comes out.
It connects to, well, there's a side street, it connects to Hill Street right there.
Okay.
Behind it.
We might have thrown a log over the front of it, or a Jersey barrier or
I think
something.
Jersey-
I think it's a Jersey Bear, yeah.
I think it's Jersey barriers.
Okay, anything else on park? Alright, down to Miko, again, all the same things we talked about at all the other buildings. Probably don't need to worry about some of these, we could probably, potentially kitchen equipment and some of these others cross off the list. The one thing that we did want to add to Miko, is we did want to continue with, again, there's one area on that building that has the old spray foam roof, so we did the majority of it in the last project. Talking with Dave last week, we do want to continue with making that building weather tight, so we will take care of that. We'll add it to this list to replace that last section of spray foam roofing. So then, again, after this project, district-wide, including Miko, McNabb, everything is up to par as far as we are concerned.
I just want to add one thing about the replacing the interior door course. That scope that I would strongly recommend, if you do it in one building, you do it in all the buildings at the same time. It's going to be hard for building and grounds and administrators to have different keys set up for different buildings. So if you do set up universal classroom cores, they could be set up per building, or they could be universal for the district. And it's much easier from a management standpoint to do all of the door interior hardware at the same time. It can be done. It can be done building by building. If you go that approach, you've got about 14 keychains until you're all done with it. You've got some on old, some on new. And it just is a lot more complicated for Chad and his staff.
I'm pretty sure the kitchen equipment in Miko could probably be scratched off. I can't see spending money to replace that. Anything we pull out of some of these other buildings, I was even thinking McNabb, maybe we could, I don't know, unless McNabb's got a couple $100,000 worth of kitchen equipment too, right?
So we didn't want to make those decisions for the board, so we provided the same amount of money and wanted you guys to get back to us and let us know if there were any buildings that you didn't want done.
Would the board want to scratch kitchen equipment at Miko?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And McNabb, is there any way, does it make sense to maybe take the best of whatever replacing some of the other buildings and
But it didn't happen.
I'm just,
I think later this week, there's a food consultant coming to meet with,
Great.
meet with Craig, the district's food service director, to evaluate all the buildings and determine what we can and can't do. So I think that's a great opportunity to discuss some of those things.
The other big one at Miko is the boiler, and that definitely needs to be done, or?
So they're all on the same cycle. Something else with boilers that could be done, I don't remember off the top of my head how many boilers Miko has. So if Miko has 2 boilers and we wanted to save money, we could replace one and deal with it in a lead lag and let the new one be the dominant one and only have to rely on the secondary one in the most severe days of winter when both need to kick on.
Right.
So I wouldn't recommend doing less than half of the scope at MECO. Right now, all of your boilers district-wide are set up lead lag, where they're not all the dominant boilers. They get rotated, but again, the recommendation is now to replace them all in kind. MECO, it would make sense to just do one. But I would do one. You do have an investment you need to protect, and we don't want the
Sure.
building to freeze.
Hopefully we can have better information for you come the 8th of September, more clarity. What would you do? Would you highlight some of those things we just talked about?
Yeah, we'll highlight them, and revise the numbers, make some of the corrections I needed to between Kingsborough there. But just the last one on the last page is the transportation facility. Pretty much the standard that we're doing at the other building. The only different one is that the last item is the waste oil tank. We have done some minor maintenance on the waste oil tank that is currently underground in front of the overhead doors as you pull up to the transportation facility. That should really come out. The DEC doesn't want it down there. It's tough to maintain down there. It's had a lot of issues. So what this would do is remove that tank and have a above ground in the storage room off to the right side of those overhead doors. We already have a space laid out for it up on the mezzanine that has the refractory for it. So it would be getting that out of the ground, removing it, and putting the above ground storage tank for any
We
changes.
just did that, didn't we?
We fixed it.
So there's a lot of, so that's the last piece up there. We've done a lot of work at transportation. So we did the oil water separator. So that's for any oil that leaks off the buses, anything from the maintenance that drains into the system, then gets separated between oil and water, and then gets pumped out. This is directly for, where he does an oil change and he dumps the 5 quarts of oil into a
Gotcha.
bucket. That bucket is now underground.
Got
So it'd be getting rid of that. And you can see why the DEC wouldn't want it underground like that. So it'd be removing that, and then
And the work that was done as part of an emergency project that the board acted on because it needed to be fixed right away. This scope of work didn't fit under either the costs that were approved or the scope of work that deemed it an emergency to be done that way. That's why it was saved as scope for a future capital project.
yeah, we did. I don't want to say it's the last component, but a lot of the major components up there have been addressed. You know, the storage tank for your fuel oil or for your gas and diesel for the buses was addressed and updated. Oil water separator was replaced. Now this is the last piece up there that really needs some attention. So as you look down at some of the totals, so this is where we're tracking. You can see the broken out by building and then broken out by priority for a total of 37.5. That's the numbers that we shared with Tim and some of the more information they'll get from us if we do need to shape that down and what we need to do with that to get us in a good place. But we think we're right around there. So again, we'll have that meeting with Tim to provide some of that budget information from your financial advisor to get a better understanding there. I do just quickly want to touch on the other 2 alternates that we did price up. So if you continue all the way down to the bottom of the page, Park Terrace alternate number 2 will be for the batting cage. So this number would remove the batting cage from its current position and put it on the 3rd baseline. So we'd be digging out the hillside a little bit over there and getting that batting cage off of that area so that potentially in the future we could continue to create more parking and storage down at that field. So that's alternate number 2. Alternate number 3 was something we had discussed just based again on the new state guidelines for temperature. We did a lot of work in the federal funded project where Kingsborough is now fully AC. This building has been fully AC. We did half of Park Terrace. This last number would be for AHUs 1 and 3. That would be the other half of Park Terrace, which would then leave you with another full air conditioned building. So again, just an alternate that we can look at if the district wants to pursue that as an option.
This was something we did explore when we looked at budgets for the federal funds and couldn't afford it as part of the 2021 project. What we did in that project was we did the west side of the building. With this project, we would want to do the east side of the building that faces the fields. So we would do exactly the same scope of work, put in rooftop units, AC in those buildings. So that would be another building that would be great to get off your list. And as of right now, because of the work that was partially done, there isn't parity. Teachers on the west side of the corridor of AC, teachers on the east side do not currently in that building.
Would this include the gymnasium too, or is that not including the gymnasium?
This is not.
That's not included. This is basically just a classroom wing.
Is it
Which
just
would then,
second floor or both First floor, second.
Both floors.
First and second floor on the east side, and the last project we did the library, cafeteria, and first and second floor on the west.
Admin is done, so it really would be, after that's the only space that wouldn't be conditioned is the gym. And we could evaluate that again for that, if you wanted a larger space.
Well, you just said whole building size, I didn't want to compare.
And Kingsborough didn't have the gym either in the last project, so Kingsborough
classroom
also
spaces.
doesn't have the gym air conditioned. If we replace the RTUs, which is one of these items, it would be in this project. Those were newer pieces of equipment that weren't out of their useful life yet. So it didn't make sense to replace them with everything else over there at the time, 4 years ago. Feels like yesterday.
Yes.
I just have one question on transportation. When do we start or plan on electrical work for that stupid electric bus mandate? And yes, I work at DEC and
That's, in my mind, a district decision. I don't see it being really a mandate they can stick behind, but again, that's something we gotta evaluate further. Like, I don't know if
I
you see
love
other districts.
mandates.
I see.
I've never met her before, I love mandates. So again, in this capital project, there isn't any scope of work or any budget that's been established to pursue any of that work for the electric bus systems. I don't know, Kathy, if there was a status of the study. There was a report, correct?
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Yeah, still waiting.
Yeah, it's the both of you.
So
There's been some preliminary
there's-
conversations with Siemens, I think, about what the impact the solar
Right.
array would have up there on their ability to charge buses, but it's all preliminary guessing games.
Yep, so it's my understanding the district is currently following all the mandates that the state has required, and part one of that is to procure and get the study. I believe there was some aid funds available to provide that study. Recommendations of that study are gonna tell Gloversville what the recommendations are, and it will break it down by what infrastructure is available, what sites may be best. I'm sure as part of it, they look at your bus runs, because you don't have the distance with electric buses that you do with diesel or with gasoline. So there are a lot of things that are going to come out of that study that will lead to the need for a future project. I am not working with any school districts currently in New York State that have gone all in and provided plug-in charging stations for a fleet of 40 buses. So again, we've been looking at it, 2030, I believe. No, what's the year on?
27 is when you're supposed to start buying them, and there is a waiver process now.
And so a lot of districts have started buying them on the required percentage per year basis that the state's listed in that place. You would do smaller charging station for just those buses, which you may already have the infrastructure for. But it's not jumping all in and designing how to handle the fleet if every bus is replaced.
We've made a strategic decision to not be on the front end of this initiative.
That's smart.
The only thing we have seen other districts do is, if we are doing work, say we were gonna replace all the asphalt up there because it needed to be done, it was part of this project, we would then throw some conduit under the ground, leading to the spaces where we would potentially put chargers, just so we're not going backwards on new work and cutting up new asphalt. But we're not planning that right now. So if we were doing asphalt work at the transportation, I would say, yeah, let's throw some 4-inch conduit underneath, bring it to where your charging station would potentially be, so at least we're not going backwards. But we don't have any real site outside of the storage tank to remove that wastewater tank. There's no waste oil tank. There's no real site work we're suggesting at transportation.
There's gotta be funding if we're gonna create a solar array or something, I would think that would have to be funded.
It's probably gonna be the same thing as our solar right down here, I would imagine,
The part of the EPC.
APC.
wherever it is.
But at this point, there were no recommendations associated with that in this current capital project.
We're buying diesel buses like it's coming out of style.
Just sign there for 2 more.
It is going out of style. Any questions for Mike? Cindy looks kind of bored, she needs some questions.
As long as we kept them on the ringer.
Nice job, guys.
Thanks, guys.
We'll try to get with Tim this week and Kathy, and then provide more information when we're
You should have Tim's come when Siemens is here.
That was my favorite, it's one of my favorite board meetings. Any board meeting, Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Next, we have a presentation from Sam Feeney. Turn it over to you.
Hold your applause, Cody. All right. Hi, guys. Great to see you in person. I got to see you guys through Zoom last year. So getting to report on updates regarding Echo Education and the work that I and my small but mighty team of consultants are doing with the district. Being able to partner with Gloversville now, this is our third full year. And I don't know, just for clarification, if you got slides, handouts, anything. If not, I'm just going to talk through a couple points. All right, great. So just to review kind of where this started, we really began our efforts with employee engagement in the spring of 2023. And we're looking at kind of a new and research-backed way to engage employees, focusing on career motivation instead of just career aptitude, and spilling that down into some of the counseling programs, and really looking at district-wide how we can incorporate that into programming. And so that led to, in the fall of 23, a revamp of the new teacher and new hire orientation that went from a 1-day to a 2-day, and really incorporated a lot of that intentionality with helping the new hires and then the new teachers not only figure out really what it is that they would want to get from their time in Gloversville as a staff member, but also then making sure that with a revamped mentorship program, which I was happy to work on with Amy Van Ostren, a way to kind of, the intention was to extend our retention efforts for these new hires. And so over time then we've developed more programming that in response to the needs of the district as communicated by Dave and Chris, and have been able to develop coaching for new administrators and leaders in both the departments of the certain grade levels, and then coming into buildings. We've been able to work there, and that work has been driven largely by Christina Lesh, who is a leadership coach with a ton of experience in education. And then as we look at this year in particular, really wanting to increase our teacher capacity. And so Cheryl Dobberton will be working closely with teachers this coming year, beginning with the superintendent's conference days, on increasing their effectiveness, targeting a lot of different tried and true in-class techniques, and kind of working together now with running that K-12 all the way through admin on how do we see that as administrators do walkthroughs and all of that. So by and large, ECHO uses a model, the ECCO, just one of the C's is the E's engagement, the C is build capacity, and the O is ownership. And our goal really has been to more and more bake these concepts and these skills into the leadership team at Gloversville, and I'll let Chris and Dave speak to its effectiveness. I have found a very receptive administrative team who wants to learn, who wants to get better. A lot of leaders, including instructional coach, building level leaders as well, who are receptive to the training and are looking to put it into practice. So by and large, I think it's been a very beneficial partnership, and we remain as flexible as we can be to every year what are the needs of the district. Is there something that we can outfit them. So even just this morning, met with the leadership team for the full day. We're able to work through K-12 alignment of systems and processes, start to identify some areas that we can really have a predictable experience for a Gloversville student as he or she goes through the process, and then looked at how we can use the evaluation process to be more effective in giving teachers feedback and helping them develop professionally as well. So I live in suburban Denver. It's not easy for me to get here, but I love coming out. So it's really, this is a district where you can tell that its leaders want to get better, and it's a blast to work with them. So, any questions? I know that's a lot. I talk fast, sorry. But anything you guys might have questions on, or Chris or Dave, anything I might have missed? No comments from Cody.
I'll just say that the work with Sam and his colleagues has been great for this district. I believe, to not elaborate too much, I think he did a nice job keeping it concise, he's made us more reflective. We've become better reflective practitioners, I think. It's not just the leadership, it's the instructional leadership, and hopefully the teachers themselves. I think we kind of hit a couple roadblocks last year with our walkthrough attempt, but it was well intended, and we're hoping to get there one way or another to improve instructional efficacy, because we all collectively believe it's the most important thing we can do to improve the outcomes of our children, period. And I think this work has been instrumental in illuminating that and honing our understanding of that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, what I love about the ownership part of it is that it's just really naming the good things and making them systematic and not by happenstance. And so that's something that has been really, I think, effective in creating a consistent experience for students and teachers across all grades and buildings.
Any questions?
All right. These guys know how to find me if you guys have questions. Thanks very much, and look forward. Tomorrow morning we host all of our new teachers. We have over 30 new hires tomorrow morning, so this room will be turned into a classroom again, and we'll keep developing this next class of Gloversville hirees. So anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next presentation, I'll turn it over to Cody, BOE High School.
Good evening, everyone. Coming tonight to talk about two courses that the high school is hopefully implementing this September. The two courses would support our scholars pursuing the arts pathway. It's a graduation option that allows students to replace one exam with a creative arts portfolio. The first class would be our arts history, which would build critical thinking and cultural literacy through artistic traditions from prehistoric to present artwork. The second course would be advanced ceramics, that would focus on technical skills, craftsmanship, and just expression through studio practice. Why I'm bringing these classes up to you is because one of the things that's present in all of historical art, religion and nudity. So we do have a permission slip that I handed out to all of you. That is a draft. One of the things that we asked our attorneys to look over was this permission slip, but it clearly states that these scholars that would be taking these courses, could be encountering representation of the human form through painting, sculpture, and physical, figurative study. There's no explicit pictures, there's no live models coming in. This is all through the college textbooks that the teacher would be using. There is no textbooks for our scholars. These are all things that they might encounter, though, when going through the curriculum. We did put in some safeguards. We did label those out. One thing is that we do have the permission slip, so all of our families are aware. One thing that our attorneys did ask for is just to put 2 columns to say, yes, I acknowledge I want my scholar to take this class. I acknowledge I don't want them to take the class. I acknowledge, but I still want them to take the class, but I don't want them to be seeing the nudity in the elements that were presented. All those pieces are there so we can provide alternative assessments if need be. One of the other things that we kind of took into account was any scholar that's taking this class has to have that permission slip signed and returned before we really get into any of the content. We've asked our teachers, we've met with them and saying, during these periods, our classrooms are closed off to other scholars. We wouldn't want another scholar from a different grade, like a 9th grade scholar, going in to work on their project and being in this class. So they wouldn't be allowed to kind of go in during this period. And all materials would be in that classroom. So like I said, there's one textbook that our our teacher is using. They will use their doc camera to kind of present materials, but that would be the only textbook that would be used. So it wouldn't be out in the building for our scholars to use. Any of the materials that are on PowerPoints or, you know, presented through the Promethean board would only be housed in those art rooms. One of the main focuses too is we want our scholars to be, you know, looking at the artwork, but if the nudity is taking away from what we're doing, then we will crop that out. So like if you think of the statue of Michelangelo's David, there's a lot of elements in that sculpture that we could look at if we just cropped that photo into the upper half of that statue. And we can still get every element that we wanted to discuss, everything that we really need for that class to kind of get what they're needing to get out of the course, without having that. Other paintings that might not allow us to crop, you know, images out, we can use a censor bar or just, you know, using kind of photo, you know, imaging, like just putting like a censor bar over the top of things we don't want. The pathway is
So if you have scholars with permission to see all content and others that don't have it, how are you gonna, are they gonna be divided into different classes, or they're gonna be together in the same class? How are you gonna police that?
So realistically, our art teachers want to just make sure that the content that they're trying to get across is the main focus. So if they have to crop all of the photos, they're going to try to do that as much as possible. If they need to find a different piece of artwork from that same period, then they're really looking at that. Realistically, this is a very unique population that would be trying this pathway. They're going on a career path that is going to take them into that realm, so realistically they have to be aware that, you know, religion and nudity is a part of, you know, the Renaissance period, these different periods of artworks, that it's going to be something that they have to face. But for us at the high school level, even though that they're taking a college level class, we have safeguards to kind of make it more on what we really need them to learn. Like I said, so if they have to crop to the top of that sculpture, they'll do that and focus on the different elements that are on the top half of a painting or things like that. You know, Ms. Krause has set examples of how she can modify some of the pieces, and it doesn't take away from what the learning would be by having like a, you know, a black censor bar. You know, it's pretty tasteful and hard to notice in some of the artworks that she's cropped out parts.
So I think what I'm hearing, if it's a class of 10, and you've got one student that your parents do not give permission, you're gonna be cropping everything in that class.
Essentially, and I think that's their focus. They would rather be more focused on the artwork rather than, you know, trying to take away from anything else. So the real focus is making sure we have these different course offerings so we can provide the pathway. You know, looking forward into our future, we don't always have all the answers yet with the pathway or the portrait of a graduate, because they haven't released all the information just yet. But we know this would be a 4+1 pathway. So they would have to take, you know, three units of study to create their portfolio, have to show progress throughout their portfolio. So without more offerings, we can't provide this pathway. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at how do we, you know, extend our offerings to a certain population of our scholars.
So I fully support this, and I asked Cody to come in because I don't want the board members to, the rare possibility that you get blindsided at a grocery store, do you know that they're looking at nudity in high school classrooms? I do not foresee this becoming an issue. I like to think you treat kids like adults, they act like adults. When I was a high school social studies teacher, I sent permission slips home to show clips of Amistad, the movie Amistad, that had some pretty disturbing imagery in it. But in the context, there was nothing sexual about it. It was horrific, if anything. And the kids, I prepped them, and they handled it extremely well. I think it's important. I mean, I think it's important for education, us as educators, to expose our children to what's out there. This is classical art that's been in the Western world, has been on display for half a millennium. I certainly support it, and I just wanted the board to have the opportunity to know about it, hear about it. If you say no, or I don't think I know you, and I think you're going to support this, but we do have the measures in place if needed. But I'm hoping we can parents and the guardians are gonna see the value in what we're trying to achieve here. And I do have copies of the textbook in my office. I didn't bring it over, I could have, but anybody wants to see the imagery that, in this college textbook, it's nothing you haven't seen in National Geographic and, or anywhere else, in art museums across the world. Nothing you haven't seen.
And the elements that we would be showcasing are what's in that textbook. Yeah, like I said, this is not the level of art class where we have models or, graphic pictures coming in. These are the works that I think all of us are aware of. Like I said, for example, Michelangelo's David, that's a pretty well-known sculpture. Those are the things that they would be exposed to.
We're gonna do Rosals Heath instead.
You know the level of interest of student number?
Off the top of my head, I don't have enrollment numbers for both classes.
But there is interest in,
Yes.
I think that's,
Any other questions? Thank you.
So, thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
All right, next we got public comment.
We scared them off after now.
Right, we scared them off. All right, move on to board discussion. We have both meetings from July 1st. Any comments, questions, discussion on either of those? Motion to approve both of those. Kelly, seconded by Kevin. All in favor? All right. Anybody have anything else for board discussion tonight? All right, move along to the superintendent's report.
My report should just take about an hour. Before I start, I just want to point out, as I always do, a couple retirements on tonight's agenda. Dennis Bai, District Administrator, current Associate Principal at Boulevard, is retiring after 12 years of service. Mr. Bai will continue for the next 10 months, September through June, on a work agreement as a retired administrator from our district. He's done a nice job at Boulevard, and very happy for Dennis to see the end in sight, and happy to see him going out. He's happy with what he's doing, and he's doing a nice job for us. So wish him a long, healthy, happy retirement. And the same for Linda Snell, Boulevard custodian, cleaner, has been with us for 30 years. She was part of that film that Andrew and I recently did with highlighting Pete Agnostopoulos. Linda it was a brief cameo in that video. So we wish her well, join her husband in retirement. Bill's been waiting patiently, right? So we wish Linda a long, healthy, happy retirement as well. So just a few things I want to bring to your attention, should be pretty quick. New cell phone law, it's gone into place. We had a public hearing last week. One parent showed up and assuaged her concerns pretty quickly. We were luckily kind of ahead of the curve on this. We ordered the Yonder pouches last year. They're going to be there for those kids who have a difficult time self-regulating, but plan is put them away, put them out of sight. If they come out, that's going to be addressed. And that part of that is, insisting kids use Yonder pouches who are unable to self-regulate. It's interesting, I feel like the governor kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit with this one. I wish he just kind of provided the cover and left local discretion. I think our plan falls within what's expected, but I was kind of surprised how far in the weeds she got with the details on this particular issue. I feel like there's other issues in education that more clarity could have come from the state and that, but I think Gloversville had a successful 24-25 school year regarding cell phones, 6th through 12th grade. Huge drop in social issues as a result of cell phone use. Cody, I guess you're the only returned building administrator. Would you say we had a successful year last year?
Yeah, at the middle school, it went very well. Most scholars, as soon as we came in, they were putting them in the Yonder pouch, had them away. For the scholars that, went by us saying that they don't have their phones, they were off and away. I would say that's a success in itself. For the most part, we had very few scholars who, outright refused. I probably would tell you there was 3 incidents where we had to call home for, parents to come up to help fine with putting them in. Like you said, the biggest difference was that we didn't have as many issues with social media drama, you know, things going back and forth. You know, kids were talking more and, you know, they were figuring out their problems, so it was nice.
So I mean, this isn't a huge, nothing's a big change for us. I think we're in good shape, we're in compliance with the law, and more importantly, we're already a year down that road. So, and we expect that success to continue, and I think there's an expectation that fifth grade is gonna be part of that as well. I think what's, the good thing about the law is that now there's no discussion with parents. Before, it was like, no, this is our rules. Well, now it's just the law of the land. It's not just Gloversville's opinion, it's the governor and the legislature's opinion. So I appreciate that cover. It's their right to make this decision and help kids focus on their academics and focus on socially growing by interacting with their peers.
Do we have any data on the progress of launching the honor pouches, decreasing referrals for cell phones, social media stuff?
I would guess it, I mean, I don't want to speak, I don't think I've seen it drilled down that far, but I think Cody and Christina and Dave would say down 80 to 90% of those particular issues, would you say?
I would say the larger issues, you saw a decrease. We would see an increase overall in numbers just because we were policing if the kids were putting their phones in the honor pouches. So you would see like it's a different problem. The year before when we were having we call it technology use violations, it was a different way of looking at it, right? They were using their photo or pictures, they're texting, they're Snapchatting in class, they're using their phones to communicate, not always the best light, where this year was they didn't have their phone in a pouch, they had it out, which were not as big of distractions, but it was still something that we were addressing.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of those things that definitely we wouldn't say, well, that was a failed initiative. It definitely is working out well for us. Speaking of initiatives, our summer reading initiative, we don't know how effective it's been, but just wanted to thank the administration and Courtney Wood and other people, the secretaries, and anybody I miss, I apologize, who's helped make our summer reading initiative a success, getting the books in the hands of kids, the reading logs, in an effort to combat summer slide. It's something that's well documented across the country, that kids lose a lot of what they have obtained in the previous school year over the summer, especially at the elementary level. So putting a big emphasis on summer reading, and we met with PTA this week, and they are certainly willing to kind of take the ball and run with it with a PARP program. It used to be known as Parents as Reading Partners, now it's Pick a Reading Partner. Kids doesn't have to be a parent, it could be an uncle, a cousin, a sibling, a neighbor, to really try to push the importance of literacy in our district and really want to build that partnership with the home and help empower parents, guardians, family members to be those teachers in their children's lives. So just getting this off the ground, I think this summer was a good start, and it's only going to get better. Communications, obviously I wanted to introduce Andrew Donito, who's doing a great job, our new communication specialist, the man behind the camera. Well, maybe we'll highlight him one of these days. So,
Not that one. I'm all right with that one.
So Andrew and I did our spotlight, our unsung heroes. We used Pete Agostopoulos, and I saw that was at like 10,000 views, and the comments were all positive. And Pete is certainly one of many unsung heroes in our district who care about this place, care about the people here, the children, the adults, and go above and beyond to help. And it's probably long overdue for us to really spotlight those folks. So we just finished one with Jen Frazier, the Boulevard secretary. That should be coming out shortly. We plan to do, Kathy's given me permission to highlight the business office. She didn't want it just about her, but we're gonna make it mostly about her. No. Kathy's been here a long time, and obviously she heads up a very important department in this district and has done a great job. She only gets celebrated once a year at budget time. Pull her out, give her a golf clap, send her back. But we're gonna torture her in her office. We want to do the IT department, the food services department, transportation department, And, you know, we want to get as many people uncomfortable in front of the camera as possible. And we appreciate the positive comments that staff and parents and former students have already put on this, so good, nice work. Andrew's, I was worried when Osama left us that it was going to be difficult to find somebody to replace him, and Andrew's somebody who's fresh out of college, and the cinema, or the videography is a piece I was concerned about, and he's relieving that concern pretty quickly, so. Doing a nice job. I think the staff's gonna really enjoy working with you, so welcome to Gloversville.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
You got it. New teacher orientation. Sam mentioned we have over 30 people. There's actually 33 new hires that are gonna be in this room tomorrow morning, 26 of which are teachers. So that's a large group. And you can see in the back side of this form, or this paper, is the agenda for the next few days. And I want to also give a shout out to Chris, who does a lot of the planning with our administrative team. Courtney Wood plays a role in some of this, and obviously Amy Van Ostrin, the mentoring coordinator. Her and the mentors obviously come in and work with their new colleagues, and I think it's really grown over the last few years to become, I think, an effective way to welcome people into the organization. You know, one of the reasons we started working with Sam was that career factors piece of what he does. He wrote a book called Career Factors, in which he talks about what makes people satisfied and stay in their careers with various organizations. You know, these 26 new teachers, you know, we didn't have 26 retirements. We obviously know the way education is now. People can leave. Doesn't matter if you got 5, 10, 15 years under your belt. Once upon a time it was unheard of to leave. Nowadays it's very common. So you lose people to home districts. Less people are going into education, so it's difficult to find people in certain certification areas. Talked about this numerous times. So despite those large numbers, obviously we're happy that we have been able to replace retired folks, people that are moving closer to home, are leaving the profession, whatever the case may be, that we're, I think we've done a nice job hiring despite the competitive environment we're working in. I'm happy with the people we're bringing in, and I think we're doing a nice job of welcoming them into our organization and hopefully help them hit the ground running. So really thank Chris and those people I just mentioned, and anyone else who's been part of that effort. So that the folks that are not teachers or TAs and aides who participate in that orientation. So our new clerical, B&G, food services do not. So just for clarity. Transportation update, I said it in my week update, I mentioned that we are expanding our transportation offerings out of necessity. Obviously mostly due to special education placements, higher needs, and BOCES inability to meet those needs because, as I mentioned, people are leaving. BOCES loses special education teachers because special education teachers are a commodity, and teachers, by nature, many of whom would rather be in a district. Feel like it's more of a home, often it is their home district, whatever the case may be. BOCES has been a victim of I don't want to say staff pirating, but people leaving that organization, which means a lot of their classrooms that they've had historically, and you can count on them providing those classes, is touch and go, whether or not those are going to be available. So I think Sarah and her team have done a nice job of finding homes for a lot of kids. A month ago, it seemed much more dire than it does now, right? But in those kids' best interest, we had to add you're looking at 7, 8 different facilities. I think I sent you the places those kids are going, and it's unfair to those kids. You take your most at-risk scholars and put them on a bus and ask them to drive around the capital region and have their peers dropped off at various places before they get dropped off. It's not ideal. So yes, we consolidate runs and we have multiple kids going to different locations on the same bus, but we are sending 4 buses to the capital region. So that gives you an idea of the complexity of those out-of-district placements, the need to meet the needs of those kids and meet them where they're at. We're unable to do it cost-effectively in-house. BOCES is increasingly challenged to meet those needs. And frankly, even those capital district placements have waiting lists, and we often have kids who are in our tutoring center waiting placements. So it's just another sign of the times. It's tough business in education these days, so Sarah, I applaud you and your staff for doing everything you can to help get these kids placed. So anything you want to add to that?
There still are a few students who are waiting for placements, and even today I was in contact with other locations about the potential for them to start in the fall. So it's a moving target.
What do we have right now, 7 kids in the tutoring center pending placement?
So
Okay, and we've had more than that in years past, but, I mean, that's 7 is still a lot, because those, as I said, are our highest need kids. Fortunately, we have a great tutoring staff right now, all retired teachers who do a great job for us. Danielle does a nice job scheduling it. And last but not least, district goals. Obviously, we're having a board retreat, and some of these could be massaged, but you know, we don't plan to change much of what we highlighted last year as our district priorities being relationships, academic performance, and post-secondary planning. The one caveat to that is, a couple years ago, we had AI as a standalone goal, like asking our staff to stick their toe in the water, start educating themselves on AI. And anybody paying attention to the world realizes that AI is rapidly evolving and becoming immersed in all aspects of our life. Our keynote speaker is going to be Dr. Bill Daggett for our staff, and he's excited to not just have our teaching staff, all of our staff are going to hear his message. It's going to be about an hour-long message about the impact AI is having on the workforce in America and the world. The jobs that we're preparing our children for are being impacted by AI and changing in front of our eyes. It's a call to arms to me in education that we need to be nimble, we need to see it for what it is, and this is one issue we cannot be late to the dance on. That we need to do our due diligence, buckle up and educate ourselves, get our hands dirty, and figure out how we can stay ahead of AI, not stay ahead, nobody's staying ahead of AI, how we can educate ourselves as best we can on the impacts AI is going to have this year, this next year, and certainly in the lives of our children when they leave high school. What we prepare them for in post-secondary planning, that's why I put it next to that. You know, I choose not to be worried about it. It is what it is. It's a reality we live with, and you know, if anything I've learned about kids 25 years in education is that they are adaptable, they are flexible, and they will adapt to it much better than the adults, but it's on us to help the adults be exposed to it, ask them to familiarize themselves with it, and not you know, focus on what they've been doing for years and years and years. We have to look at the kids in front of us and say, what are they going to be doing in the years ahead, and how can we best prepare them to be successful in life with this ever-evolving albatross that's impacting every aspect of their life. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know enough about it. I use it. It makes my life easier, and I'm sure I'm just scratching the surface. In fact, I know I'm just scratching the surface, but it's made my life easier as a school superintendent. So, any questions on that or our report? We can go into more detail on that during our retreat in September. I'll try to have some more information for you about what we're thinking, but the truth is, it's on everybody's mind. I attended a meeting up in Lake Placid last week. It's a NERIC yearly briefing. FBI came in and talked about swatting and how best to react to swatting threats. I told them I'd like to get the administrative team and our clerical team together, and these FBI agents, special agents, are willing to come in and talk to us about how best to handle swatting calls. And the rule is don't overreact. You know, try to educate yourself on what the caller is saying before you overreact. So it's interesting. You thought the law enforcement would be telling you to, you know, exercise caution, but he's saying their take is that the districts are making those mistakes. And there's been some in the Capital District that they've used as examples that overreacted to swatting calls. So I think it's important that we pay attention to that. But the other part of that conversation was all about AI. And it's the 3rd year in a row it's been all about AI. And you know, this is something the profession is wrestling with, and I think we have the right person coming in to talk about it, because Dr. Daggett has done a lot of things over his career in the last few years. I think he's been zeroing in on AI, and he's certainly an authority. That's why he's traveling the world, he's coming to us from Edinburgh, Scotland, way before he meets with our staff. So excited to have him and excited for the coming school year. Looking forward to seeing all those little smiling faces and the kids. No. Still looking forward to the students and staff returning. Any questions for me? That concludes my report. No executive session.
Next, we got recommended items 6.01 through 16.44.
11:01, can you pull that to vote separately?
It's in 16.34 as well.
And 12.13.
Oh my God, you guys are killing me. 12. All right, so motion to approve the vast majority of those items minus 11.01, 16.34, and 12.13. John, second by Kevin, all in favor of those? All right, motion to approve 11.01. Ed, Kelly, all in favor of that one? Kevin abstain on that one. Now it's John's turn to abstain. Motion to approve 16.34. Kevin, seconded by Kelly on that one. All in favor? All right, and then 12.13. John, Ed, all in favor? And now motion to adjourn the meeting. All right, everybody at once. Seconded by Heath. All in favor of that one? All right. Thank you, everyone.